Hello and welcome to PowerServer 2017, Appeon Workspace installation for PowerServer mobile applications. Let's have a look at Appeon Workspace. What is it? What's the architecture? Well, having a look at the left-hand box, we can see a mobile device. On the mobile device is an application called the Appeon Workspace, or what we also call the mobile framework. It's basically the equivalent of the PowerBuilder virtual machine, or runtime, which provides an execution environment to the PowerBuilder applications that you have built and deployed to PowerServer and are downloaded dynamically from PowerServer itself. The applications once running within inside Appeon Workspace have access to the business functionality that you programmed, as well as the mobile operating system itself, and even features of the mobile device. Appeon Workspace, for the ease of development and getting started, can be downloaded from either the Apple Store for iOS devices or the Google Play Store for Android devices. Notice that the Appeon Workspace on the stores are for demonstration purposes or get the development environment up and running quickly. You can download them from there. However, later on, you'll see that you'll be able to actually build your own mobile framework, also known as Appeon Workspace, and customize it with your application lists that are ready to go, as well as a look and feel that you want. In that case, you would actually take that compiled version of your version of Appeon Workspace and put it on your own private server. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So what are the benefits of using Appeon Workspace or the mobile framework at runtime? It simplifies the distribution and updating of your actual mobile applications. As you deploy them to PowerServer, they're dynamically brought down into the mobile device using the runtime, the Appeon Workspace or mobile framework. It gives you an easy way of organizing your application access. You can implement user authentication. You can facilitate application debugging. You can support mobile device APIs. And you have support for offline database applications. In other words, you can install a local database on the mobile device, and then when connectivity is restored, or at the time of your choosing, you can synchronize the transaction data between the local database and a corporate entity, and much more. So, installation steps from an application store. First of all, what you'll need to do is configure your firewall to temporarily disable the firewall, because most likely your firewall isn't configured in the development environment to allow mobile device access. Let's do that now. So going to the Microsoft Control Panel, to the firewall itself, I'm using the Microsoft Windows 10 Fall Creator Edition, and installed with that automatically is the firewall and antivirus called Windows Defender. I'll click on that. Next thing I need to go is go to turn the firewall on and off. And you can see here I can actually turn it off and then hit OK. And now the firewall is off. I only need to do this temporarily again until I can actually register the appropriate application device access. The next step will be to verify the connection to PowerServer from the Appeon Enterprise Manager. But that also means verifying the connection from the mobile device itself. Let's see how that's done. So having a look at my actual iPad mobile device, you can see in the bottom left-hand side the Safari web browser. What I need to do in the web browser is actually enter the IP address of my development machine where PowerServer is running. I can use the DOS command prompt to be able to do that. If I type in ipconfig, you can see that it actually lists my IP address, which is 192.168.1.8. If I go here and mark that particular piece of information, I can then copy that to the clipboard, which I can use for later activities here in the Workspace installation. Notice if I actually return to my mobile device into the web browser, I can type in the IP address of PowerServer, 192.168.1.8. Then a slash, and then AEM, Appeon Enterprise Manager, and then hit go. You notice at this point, Appeon Enterprise Manager actually responds and presents a login screen. At this point, I know that on the web browser on the mobile device, I can communicate to the IP address, which is IIS, and underneath that is PowerServer, which now responds. So I know the connection between my mobile device and the actual PowerServer IIS combination is working properly. So we've now completed step 2. We've verified the connection between the mobile device and PowerServer. That means we can actually give a URL from the mobile device not only to PowerServer, but the applications residing within that particular server combination to bring them down to the actual device and execute them at runtime. Step 3 will be to install the Appeon Workspace from either the Apple or Google App Store. Again, this would only be for development while you want to get set up quickly in your development environment to get started. Let's do that now. Notice when we return to the Apple device, you can see again on the bottom left-hand side the icon to launch the Apple App Store. Tapping on the A brings us to the actual App Store. We can tap into the top right-hand side, which is Search, type in Appeon, and you can see here on the left-hand side, Appeon Workspace is available and downloadable from the actual cloud. Tapping in on the cloud icon starts the actual download and installation process. Now all we need to do is just wait for the progress bar to actually download the install and then run the install and install it into the iOS operating system. Once the installation has been completed, you notice that the download progress bar turns into an open button. You notice when we return to the desktop, on the right hand side in the bottom is Appeon Mobile, or also known as Appeon Workspace. If I tap on that, I can actually launch the actual workspace. You notice the first thing it's going to ask you is it okay if I access notifications, sounds, and other things on the particular device? It's not that Appeon Workspace wants to do that, it's just that your applications that are running underneath this mobile framework may need access to those particular entities on the particular operating system or device. So select Allow. You notice once you start the Appeon Workspace, one of the things that may be a bit irritating, of course because it comes down from the App Store, it has the marketing banner that's actually circulating across the top. In order to disable that, select the gear at the top right hand side, Settings, General, Workspace Banner, and then turn that off. On the top left hand side, hit Go Back, and then Go Back again. And notice now you return to Appeon Workspace, marketing banner is no longer available. But now we're ready to add applications and execute them. The next step will be to configure a mobile application in Appeon Workspace for developer testing. Let's see how we can do that. There's a few different ways. So returning to Appeon Workspace on the mobile device, on the iPad on the top left-hand side, you'll see a plus, or you can tap the icon that says Add Application. Either one will do. Once you tap that, you'll notice that it wants a URL. The first thing it wants in the URL, of course, is the address of the PowerServer. So I can type in 192.168.1.8 and then put a / and then the actual name of my deployed application, which in this case, for example, could be sales. Hitting the test connection, you can see the connection is successful. So not only are we talking to PowerServer, we can also verify that the application is there, is ready to run. Again, on the top left-hand side is a Go Back icon. Tapping that, you see the application will actually now install on the mobile device, and it's ready to run. Another way to do it is to actually hit the plus button, and you'll notice on the right-hand side is a QR code. We can use that instead of actually typing in the URL address. Returning back to the actual Windows browser, again where we're logging on to Appeon Enterprise Manager, log in with admin, or whatever password you've changed it to. Notice if you scroll down the left-hand side to Mobile Application Distribution, Applications, you can see here that you can type in the HTTP address of your PowerServer. Again, this is a good reason to be able to copy that when we did the ipconfig in the DOS command window, so you don't have to manually type it in here. So now that you actually got the IP address, make sure that you type one more / at the end of that. Select the application that you'd actually like to deploy to the mobile device, in this case Sales Mobile, and get QR code. And there's a code that you can actually download to a file, or you can copy it to the clipboard. The next thing you can do is actually then go back to Workspace and point the camera of the device to this QR code. So now if I return back here to Workspace where I'm adding an application, and it'll actually launch the application and run it on the mobile device. You notice once the application starts, it comes to a login window. The user ID and password is defaulted, so just hit login. And now you see the application is executing and data is coming back from the database to PowerServer. PowerServer then is relaying that information here to the application running on the mobile device. You can see here we have a whole bunch of orders that we can actually trip through the database. We can select, for example, different reports. We can have a look at the customer reports. We can look at customers themselves. The second one, for example, Brianna Essler, we can tap on that, drill down to the details. And we can see that information coming from the SQL Anywhere database. Notice on the middle and the right-hand side, we can see an icon, which seems to be some kind of mapping software. So tapping on that particular icon, it's going to ask us for the first time, is it okay to access that particular location in Google Maps? So it launches Google Maps if we say allow, and notice it drops the pin exactly where that particular customer resides. So there's an example of actually interacting directly with Google Maps right on the mobile device. Now, for example, we can also go to products as well and have a look at the products from the database. The third way of distributing an application is to actually use the actual packaging tool within the PowerServer toolkit. Notice if we actually then select the packaging tool from the secondary toolbar, I can actually then build a deployment at this point. Give it a name. That can be any logical name that you want. I've just called it demo here. We would select the radio button, customize and package Appeon Workspace. We can deploy Appeon Workspace in the application list to either an Apple or an Android device. In this example, I'm going to choose the Apple one. Notice at this point, I can then type in specific ID for that particular application that I'm deploying. The name of the application which is going to be Sales Mobile. Whether or not I want the Workspace banner on or off. If I do want my own banner, I can select an icon here with the ... I'll be able to actually then put my own banner up there with my own corporate logo. The type of security that I would like, SSL, Secure Socket Layer. Do I want to be able to actually have logging turned on? The help path. You notice here that we can also go down to the applications themselves. For example, again, the Sales Mobile is the one I've selected. Do you want the user to be able to edit that particular application? That when it actually gets deployed, you can turn that off. Do you want it full screen by default? Sure. What language do you want it to start in? What major and minor version is it when you actually see it? And what version of Xcode, which is the Apple development language, do you want to be able to use? The application icon itself, and you can set an icon for the iPhone or the iPad and different variations of those devices. And also the same for the launch image for the iPhone or the iPad. So once you've actually selected the appropriate values at this point, you can select Next. You can then select the actual application itself and the URL that you want. I've just typed in the Appeon DNS and then slash, and then I can type in, for example, Sales Mobile and select Next. Notice it's going to actually produce an installation package for Appeon Workspace. And then it's actually going to start the actual construction of that particular Appeon Workspace package for installation. So this will be a customized Appeon Workspace. This is definitely what we would recommend when you're going into production, not bringing the ones down from the app stores. So now you have the application app package ready to go. Everything looks out good. We look at the log. There are no errors at this point. So if we go to Program Files, Appeon PowerServer, you'll see that it's created from the actual packaging wizard a folder called App Package. If I drill down from there, you see Sales Mobile installation, the Xcode here for the Appeon Mobile Workspace, or what we call Appeon Mobile Framework. And you can actually then install that. You notice there's a help file as well. And if we drill down from the help file, notice if we drill down from the top of the help file to tutorial number 4, task for distributing an application archive, that for AWS, it says, for example, how we can distribute that through the actual App Store itself, or if you may want to use an in-house method and put it on your own server. So follow the information here in that particular help file that gets generated, and you'll find out basically how to distribute the IPA here, which is basically the assembler execution file for your Appeon Workspace flavor, especially in the production environment. So after you've actually built your application and tested it, again, for production, make sure that you actually build and deploy your own version of Appeon Workspace. You've customized that one for production so that it looks and feels and fits into your corporate IT environment. Some of the advanced installation scenarios. For example, if you have the actual Appeon workspace or your application itself compiled into an Android or iOS assembler executable, then you can actually drop it on your device if you're an Android by connecting your device via USB cable and then drag and drop the executable APK file directly to your device. That'll appear in the download area of Android device. Go to the download area, tap on the actual APK, and it'll actually install that for you. For iOS, you have, in order to install its executable, either again the Appeon workspace or your application, you could also use the iTunes software to synchronize that particular executable from your Windows desktop to your actual mobile Apple device. Another way to do it is to deploy over the air. An over the air template web page was provided in Appeon Enterprise Manager. You can have a look at that and build your own using that template, pointing to the actual APK or IPA of where you want to actually download it from your production server. Notice that in the Apple environment, Apple iOS requires you to compile your own IPA. You can't just take the one from the Apple Store and then forward it on. You can deploy using a mobile device management solution to other users. Examples: AirWatch, the IBM has one, Microsoft has one, Mobile Iron, and even SAP has a product that can do that for you as well as an automated deployment alternative. So congratulations! You've now successfully installed, configured, and tested Appeon Workspace in the development environment. Again, don't forget for production to compile your own version and deploy it via the alternatives that I've given you throughout this video. Thanks for watching.